The year 1947 marked the end of the British Empire in India. It also marked the birth of two new nations, India and Pakistan. This momentous occasion was tragically marred by violence and displacement. The partition, based on religious lines, led to one of the largest mass migrations in human history. Millions found themselves on the wrong side of the newly drawn borders. Communities that had lived together for centuries turned on each other. The horrors of partition left an indelible scar on the relationship between India and Pakistan. The two nations emerged from the ashes of empire deeply suspicious of one another. The trauma of partition fueled a cycle of mistrust and animosity. This legacy continues to cast a long shadow over the subcontinent. The partition also left behind several unresolved issues. The most contentious of these was the fate of the princely state of Jammu and Kashmir. This dispute over Kashmir would become a flashpoint for future conflicts between India and Pakistan. The seeds of discord were sown even as the two nations took their first steps as independent entities. At the heart of the India-Pakistan conflict lies the beautiful and strategically important region of Kashmir. When the British departed, the future of this princely state remained undecided. The Hindu Maharaja of Kashmir, facing an internal revolt and an incursion by Pakistani tribesmen, acceded to India. This accession, however, was conditional on a referendum that never took place. The First Indo-Pakistani War of 1947-48 erupted over Kashmir. The war ended with a United Nations brokered ceasefire. However, it left Kashmir divided along a line of control. This division, far from resolving the issue, solidified it as the core dispute between the two nations. The unresolved Kashmir conflict poisoned relations between India and Pakistan. It fueled mistrust and led to a massive military buildup on both sides of the border. Kashmir became a symbol of the larger historical grievances and ideological differences that separated the two countries. The dispute also became a major obstacle to any meaningful dialogue or cooperation. The India-Pakistan relationship has been punctuated by periods of intense conflict. Following the First War over Kashmir in 1947-48, the two nations clashed again in 1965. This second war, sparked by an infiltration operation in Kashmir, ended in a stalemate. However, it further deepened the animosity and suspicion between the two sides. In 1971, a war of independence erupted in East Pakistan, present-day Bangladesh. India intervened in support of the Bengali nationalists. The 1971 war ended in a decisive victory for India and led to the creation of Bangladesh. This defeat was a major blow to Pakistan and had a profound impact on its national psyche. Beyond these full-fledged wars, India and Pakistan have also engaged in numerous military standoffs and skirmishes. The 1999 Kargil conflict, for example, saw Pakistani troops occupy strategic heights in the Kargil district of Indian-administered Kashmir. The conflict brought the two nuclear-armed nations dangerously close to war. In May 1998, India conducted a series of nuclear tests. Pakistan followed suit with its own tests just 2 weeks later. The world watched with alarm as the subcontinent became a nuclear flashpoint. The nuclear tests marked a turning point in the India-Pakistan rivalry. The acquisition of nuclear weapons by both countries introduced a new and dangerous element to their conflict. The risk of escalation to nuclear war became a terrifying possibility. The international community expressed deep concern and urged both sides to exercise restraint. The nuclearization of South Asia had profound geopolitical implications. It shifted the balance of power in the region and heightened tensions. The international community scrambled to contain the fallout from this development. The specter of nuclear war continues to loom over the subcontinent to this day. Section 5. Glimmers of hope, diplomatic efforts and setbacks. Despite the long history of conflict and mistrust, India and Pakistan have made several attempts to normalize relations. These efforts, however, have often been met with setbacks and disappointments. The deep-seated suspicion and the unresolved issue of Kashmir have proven to be major stumbling blocks. One notable attempt at rapprochement was the Lahore Declaration of 1999. signed by then Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif of Pakistan and Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee of India, the declaration reaffirmed the commitment of both countries to resolving all outstanding issues, including Kashmir, through peaceful means. However, the optimism generated by the Lahore Declaration was short-lived. In 1999, the Kargil conflict erupted, shattering the fragile peace. Subsequent attempts at dialogue have also been derailed by terrorist attacks and political instability. Section 6, Rubicon crossed the revocation of Article 370. In August 2019, the Indian government revoked Article 370 of the Indian Constitution. This article had granted special status to Jammu and Kashmir, including a degree of autonomy. The move was met with outrage in Pakistan, which viewed it as a unilateral attempt to change the status quo in the disputed region. The revocation of Article 370 marked a significant escalation in tensions between India and Pakistan. Pakistan downgraded diplomatic relations with India and suspended bilateral trade. The move also sparked protests and unrest in Indian-administered Kashmir. The international community expressed concern over the situation and called for restraint from both sides. However, the move had already significantly damaged the already fragile relationship between India and Pakistan. It pushed the two countries further apart and dimmed the prospects for any meaningful dialogue in the near future. Section 7, Brinkmanship and its aftermath. The 2025 escalation. Tensions between India and Pakistan reached a boiling point in early 2025. This followed a deadly attack in Indian-administered Kashmir that killed 26 people. India blamed Pakistan-based militants for the attack and launched airstrikes against what it claimed were terrorist camps inside Pakistan. Pakistan retaliated with its own airstrikes, and the two countries engaged in their most serious military confrontation in years. The situation raised fears of a wider conflict, particularly given the two countries' nuclear arsenals. The international community scrambled to defuse the crisis, calling for restraint from both sides. While the immediate crisis abated, the 2025 escalation had a lasting impact on the India-Pakistan relationship. It underscored the volatility of the situation and the ever-present danger of escalation. The incident also led to a further hardening of positions on both sides, making the resumption of dialogue even more difficult. Is Section 8 a frozen peace? The current state of affairs. The India-Pakistan relationship today can best be described as a no peace, no war scenario. While the situation has stabilized since the 2025 escalation, there's been little progress towards a meaningful thaw in relations. The two countries remain locked in a state of deep mistrust, their interactions characterized by suspicion and hostility. Formal diplomatic engagement remains limited. Both countries continue to participate in multilateral foray, but they avoid direct bilateral dialogue. The 2023 Shanghai Cooperation Organization meeting, for instance, saw the Pakistani foreign minister visit India, but no bilateral talks were held. Rhetorical duels and accusations continue to dominate the public discourse. The lack of trust and the unresolved issues, particularly the Kashmir dispute, cast a long shadow over any attempts at rapprochement. The situation remains volatile, and the risk of miscalculation or unintended escalation remains a constant concern. Section 9. The path forward. Dialogue or continued discord. The path to a more peaceful and stable future for India and Pakistan remains elusive. The legacy of partition, the unresolved Kashmir dispute, and the mistrust fueled by decades of conflict continue to pose formidable challenges. However, the costs of continued confrontation are too high for both countries to ignore. Dialogue, while difficult, remains the only viable option for resolving the outstanding issues and normalizing relations. However, for dialogue to be meaningful, it must be accompanied by concrete steps to build trust and address each other's concerns. This includes addressing the issue of cross-border terrorism, which India sees as a major impediment to peace. The influence of hawkish nationalism in both countries also poses a significant challenge. The rise of nationalist sentiment has made it more difficult for leaders on both sides to engage in meaningful dialogue or compromise. Creating a more conducive environment for peace will require addressing the root causes of mistrust and promoting a more nuanced understanding of the complex history and shared future of the two nations.